and thank you for joining me for this tutorial. As you probably know, U.S. labeling regulations require that products containing 10 ppm parts per million or more of sulfites must make a sulfite declaration on the package. This is similar to an allergen requirement, but in the United States, sulfites are most often declared at the end of an ingredient statement. In Genesis, sulfites are entered as nutrients on the ingredient nutrients screen or overridden at the recipe level. You enter them as ppm and the program will automatically calculate the milligrams per weight value. So if you correctly enter the sulfites for your ingredients, Genesis can calculate the total ppm of sulfite for your recipe, and then, if necessary, pop a declaration in at the end of the ingredient statement. Let me show you how this works. The very first thing that I want to do is make sure that I'm using the correct list of nutrients. In this case, I want to populate my label data, which includes sulfites. So I go to Nutrients to View on the Home ribbon and select Label US 2016 Mandatory and Sulfites. Just to show you what I'm working with, I'm going to go back to Nutrients to View and click Modify. Then I can show you that these are the nutrients in the required label display, plus sulfites in parts per million and milligrams. Remember, like I said in the introduction, you will enter the parts per million, but the program calculates the milligrams. Now I'm going to open up an apricot ingredient that I will be using to build my trail mix. As you can see, all of the nutrients have been populated except for sulfites. So I have to populate it manually. I know from my supplier that these apricots have 800 ppm of sulfites, so I enter that. And like I said, the program automatically converts it to the weight, which it knows since this is nutrient data for 100 grams. Okay, let's save that. Now I'm going to build my trail mix. So I go to New, Recipe, and I will call this Trail Mix, and say that it makes 7 servings. Click OK. And I decided that I want to see my sulfites on screen here. So to do that, right click and select Display Columns. Click Edit for Nutrient Columns and then scroll until I find sulfites. And then I'm going to add both the parts per million and the milligrams. Click OK and click OK again. And this will let us see right away what ingredients contain sulfites. So I'm going to start by adding the apricots that we just added sulfites to. So I'm going to search for those, enter half a cup, and now I'm going to add some almonds. Again, search for almonds, select the ones I want, and add them at half a cup. Now save that, and I can see on screen that the apricots contain sulfites at 800 parts per million. Remember, a ppm measurement is constant for an ingredient regardless of the amount of that ingredient. So the ppm of one apricot is going to be the same as it is for a pound of apricots. This is very similar to percentages. What changes the ppm for the recipe is the ratio of the sulfite containing ingredient to the recipe as a whole with all of its other ingredients. As I mentioned before, the program is going to convert the ppm of sulfites to a gram weight in order to calculate the total amount of sulfites for the full recipe, and then it will be able to convert the recipe's total sulfite weight back into parts per million. And if it determines that a declaration is needed, which means there's more than 10 ppm, it will pop one in at the end of the ingredient statement. Let's look at the spreadsheet report to get a slightly clearer picture. Now I see here that the total ppm in the recipe is 388. The apricot ppm is 800. Again, that is going to remain constant, but the recipe's total ppm should change. And to see how this will look on your ingredient statement, let me click Ingredient Statement. And you see right here that the sulfite declaration has automatically appeared. Close out of that and go back to the recipe, and I am going to add a few more ingredients. Let's start with adding some raw cashews. Search for those, select these. I'm going to add 7 ounces and add some cranberries. Search for those and add them at 1/4 cup. Now dried cranberries might also contain sulfites, so that will show up here as well, as you see. And I'm going to add some walnuts and Now, when I go back to the spreadsheet report, you'll see that the recipe's total PM has gone down quite a bit. Now remember, the declaration is automatic, so if I go back to the recipe, I'm going to delete the apricots. And now I'm going to look at the spreadsheet again, and you see that the total sulfite ppm is less than 10. So if I open the ingredient statement, I would expect the declaration to no longer be there. And as you can see, it is not. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put the apricots back into the recipe so I can show you what the label screen will look like. So I'm going to add those back in, and then I'm going to click View Label. I can see that my ingredient statement now includes the sulfite declaration again, and that's basically it for sulfites. It's pretty easy, but I do want to show you one more thing. Go to Edit Label, and over here under Nutrient Options, scroll to Sulfites and expand that. Now here is where you can choose wording for the sulfite declaration, whatever is most suitable for you here. And then if you want to hide the sulfite declaration altogether, go ahead and check this box. And click OK, and you can see that it disappears. Certainly if you do that, you'll have to put it somewhere else on your packaging. So please keep that in mind. And that concludes this tutorial. Thank you.